How's it going, guys? Welcome to the next tutorial in this series of Java for Beginners. In this tutorial we're going to be going over the switch statement and enumerations. So first of all, in this tutorial I'm going to be moving out of the main method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a constructor up here for this class public tutorial, like so, and then in the main method I'm just going to create a new instance of this class. So if we remember back to our object-oriented programming, saying we're creating a new tutorial object, which is this class, we're creating a new object of this class, and when a new object is created, the constructor is run. So we're going to sort of be looking, not you doing stuff inside the main method, we're going to be doing our code inside this constructor here. So first of all, I'm going to show you about the switch statement. So the switch statement is useful when we have more than one case that we need to test. So for example, when testing Boolean values, we use if and else statements because there's usually only a true or a false, and therefore we can just use if and else. But say we were testing numbers and we wanted to test many different cases for what the number was equal to, we could use lots of else if statements, or we could convert it to a switch statement. So first of all, I'm going to make an integer called a equal to 10, and then we're going to create the switch statement. So switch statement looks like this. We first write the word switch, and then as a parameter in brackets, the switch statement takes an parameter of what you want to test. So in this case we're testing the variable a, so I'm going to just create the block now. So now this switch statement is testing the variable a, and what the switch statement wants us to do is it wants us to provide it with cases for which the a variable will be tested. So for example, say I write case 1 like so. You write the keyword case first of all, and then you put because this is an integer variable we're using, you put basically any number you want to test it for. So this, you could read this as, in the case of a being equal to 10, it's going to do something. And the syntax looks like this. It's a slightly different syntax from everything else that we've seen so far. We write case and then the number or variable that we want to test, and then we can put a colon like this, and then you'll see that it moves. You'll see that NetBeans automatically tabs it for us. So now, after we've written case of whatever and then done the colon and moved down a line, we can say what we want to do in the case of a being equal to 10. So for the purposes of this example, I'm simply going to print it out. A is 10, like so, and then we can do something called break. We're going to go down the line, we're going to write the keyword break. If you remember the keyword break from the while statement and the for statement, it basically breaks out of the loop. In the switch statement, we need to put it after every single case, because say we had another case, in the case of a being equal to 5, for example, system.out.println a is 5. So in the case of this occurring, say we didn't have this break statement here, say we commented it out so it didn't affect it, and it would say in the case of it being 10, alright, it is equal to 10, so do this. But then it's going to carry on going and check if it's equal to 5 and then do that. But we don't want it to do that because we've already entered this one. We already know that that was what the case was, so the other ones below it aren't going to be true. So that's the reason we put the break statement in, because after we've entered a case and we've done something, we want to break out of this switch statement, which is going to bring it down here. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this, and you're going to see it says a is 10. That's because we're testing the value of the a variable, and we're saying in the case of a being equal to 10, do this. And then here we have in the case of a being equal to 5, so I'll just show you that example. And you'll see a is 5. But what happens if none of the conditions are satisfied? What if a is equal to 6, for example? When we run it, we're going to see that nothing actually happens, because it tests both cases and neither of them are true. If they're very specific values that you're looking for, such as in this example, just looking for 2 specific values, if it's anything else, we can do something called the default. And it's basically another case. It's a default case for if everything else was not true. So we're going to write default like this, and then put a colon. And then we can add our break statement here. And we can just system out dot print line. And we can, for example, say a is not a valid value, for example. So now when we run this, we'll see that it says a is not a valid value because it tested for 10, it wasn't equal to 10, it tested for 5, it wasn't equal to 5, so then it goes to this default case. So the default case is basically if every other case didn't happen, then do this default one here. So you can see how the default case works for any value other than 5 and 10 you put in. You'll see a is not a valid value. If I stick 10 in, you'll see that it goes back into the case of 10. So the switch statement is all very well. We can use it with values, but it's not very easy to look at, such as case 10, case 5, default. And you may, I'm about to show you enumerations, and they're useful in certain circumstances, but not in other circumstances. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this switch statement here. And then just above, outside, in the global scope of the class, we're going to write an enumeration, and the syntax for that looks like this. We first write the word enum for enumeration. You can see it's a keyword in Java, and we then give it a name. For example, if we were doing say days of the week, I can write days like this. And now that we've written enum, we've given it a name, we can give it a block like so, enclosed in spiked brackets. And now inside this enumeration, we simply write comma separated values, comma separated names, and these are basically going to turn into enumeration variables, and we can use them in switch statements, and it gives a more sort of visual feel to your code, and it's going to make it easier. So for days, if I write like this, say Monday, and the naming convention for enumerations is to have the variables inside as all capital letters, we can say Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, there we go. So we have these comma separated values, and basically these, we don't need to declare them as a special type because they're inside the enumeration, and these basically just become equal to enumeration values, and we can use these to test for different cases. So let's use that with the switch statement now. So we're going to say switch, except not in capital letters. We're going to say switch, and then we're going to test the days. So to test the days, first of all, we need to have a day object. So enumeration may not be a class, but we can still have an object of it. So we can write this days like so, as if we were making a new object, and we can just call it day equal to, and we don't say it's equal to a new day. We can simply add we can simply reference one of these by directly referencing the class name and then just putting our full stop and then referencing the names of these variables. So we can say days day is equal to the days enumeration up here, and then we put our stop, and you can see that we have all of our values that we've done. So for example, let's do Sunday. So we now have a day, we now have a days object called day, and it's equal to the value of that Sunday. So we're going to be testing day in the switch statement. And now we can test for basically all of the different days. So we can write case of it being Monday, like so. And a common error that people do is reference the class like this, days.monday. And for some reason, the people who made Java, the Java programmers, decided that you don't need to reference the actual class, because by testing an object of the enumeration, it implies that you're using these variables here. So you just literally write the names of them. So in the case of it being Monday, the case of it being Tuesday, let me just fill these all out. Alright, so I've written out that switch statement, and it's basically testing the days object, and it's going to, with depending whatever day it is, it's going to just say different things. So there's obviously lots of them, so I'm not going to write something for each individual one. So for Sunday, we can say, like, Monday tomorrow. And then on Monday, we can say system.out.println, I hate Mondays. So now that we've got these two system out println statements inside of our switch statement, we could test all the other ones, but like I said, I'm not going to type out different cases for each of the individual ones. So if the day that we're testing is equal to Monday, it's going to print out I hate Mondays, and then if it prints out, if it's equal to Sunday, it's going to print out that string there. So we can go ahead and hit run, and you can see it says ugh Monday tomorrow, and that's because the days object we set equal to the value of the Sunday. If we set this equal to the Monday and then hit run, you can see that it prints out the string that we told it to for that case. So that's how you can use switch statements and enumerations together. Again, enumerations are useful, especially when you're not testing for specific values. You just want to test individual things. For example, when you make a new instance of this class, you could pass a day object into the constructor, and the class would say do different things depending on whatever day the user puts in here. So that's it for this tutorial. Thanks for watching.